Today on the podcast, we have Jasmine Streeter, and by far, I think she is the only. Yeah, I could honestly say she's the only Black veterinarian that I have ever met. I think that based off of our conversation, she is really a go-getter, and one of the reasons why, we've always stayed in contact. And so she, is obviously an animal lover. She has horse. She, she has a great sense of humor, but she also has gone through the trenches and she's fighting that good fight, not only for people, but also for, man's best friend, our four-legged companions. And so it was a great conversation about how to just navigate this space of coronavirus and equity and inclusion and pet ownership, and really sort of shining light on the fact that within the pet advocacy community, Black voices are often overshadowed, despite a lot of Black families, a lot of Black households have pets. They're pet owners. They love pets, and I don't think that we often get the fair share of the acknowledgement for really raising these animals and participating in the livelihood of their lives. And so as a fellow foster parent of animals and talking to obviously a doctor of animals, I think this was a great conversation for really Black people in Portland to sort of consider being more outspoken and being more broader advocates of animal welfare, because it's man's best friend, and without your best friend, what do you have? And so without further ado, let's get it started. So, in the age of Corona, how are things going?
How are things going? For me, I'm feeling very blessed. Very, very blessed. And it helps you put things in perspective. A lot of things people thought were important before they're realizing weren't important. One of the major things I think a lot of people are realizing: toilet tissue, hand sanitizer, not as important as we thought. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So I'm doing good, but I'm praying for, the people who are out there who are struggling and really trying to follow the guidelines that are put in place that we have to protect people. It's not rocket science. It's, common sense measures that we have.
Yeah. I mean, if you at least stay on Twitter, there's always something new going on where it's school, Liberty University is the president and director is urging people to go back to school. And so
are you serious?
Yeah, that's kind of the latest.
Oh, wow.
That's the latest news. So so the director is issuing, I'm not sure if it's enacted yet, but they're issuing that everybody, all the students and faculty, come back from spring break starting next week. And so
I need to check and see, because I know for many of the veterinary schools, they were actually telling students, not to come back. Yeah. And we heard previous stories where students were told not to come back after spring break. So I really just think the focus should be on the safety, of the campus and the students, and making sure the spread is contained before we do anything, just following guidelines. I know everybody's trying to get back to regular life, but
yeah, I mean, I
really got
what are we week 2 into this? So it's
this is America. This is America in week 2.
Yeah.
We are out here making TikTok videos.
Yep.
Quarantine. People are finding out how they truly feel about their partners.
Yeah.
How they truly feel about their children. They're finding out about the education system. They find out how healthcare works. I think we're learning a lot about ourselves and what we need to change in the environment,
Oh yeah, definitely. And because I know Portland State, I think, from what I heard from one of the adjunct professors, Portland State is doing completely online for their spring semester, and so they made that decision. Yeah. So there's a lot of different. There's just a lot of different things out there. Obviously, if you're closer to Seattle, state-wise and city-wise, then you're probably going to be more conservative in terms of, being outside and if anything, I feel like we're
Exactly.
closer to be more under quarantine than someplace like Florida who just doesn't even care.
Oh, you know what? When I saw the images of everyone in their boats on spring break, I was like, are we enjoying ourselves?
Yes.
Are we? I would like to get back to normal function. We will have multiple times for spring break, people, but everything is closed. So why not just, take this time to quarantine yourself and really focus on your health and
Yeah.
you get your finances ordered. This is a good time to plan for the next disaster. Currently focusing on this one, and then what about if this happens again? Because when I found out that 40% of Americans didn't have $400, I'm like, okay,
Yeah.
well, maybe we don't need to be going on as many vacations as we thought.
Yeah.
Maybe we should be refinancing and focusing on how we can save our money. And, even the stock market, you can't put all your money in the stock market.
I know. I mean, what, like 401ks and the stock market and all that? That stuff is kind of just
Oh, yeah, mine
thrashed.
crashed. I said, I'm going Warren Buffett style. I'm just going to ride the wave. I'm just, I'm young. I'm just going to ride it. There's no reason for me to sell at this time.
Yeah.
I said, I'm just going to hold.
Yeah. I mean, if you had a
Hold.
little insider trading, you could have did with
Ooh,
what a
ooh,
couple of the
what you mean?
yeah, so
You mean if I had 3 months advance notice that there was a pandemic coming and I had
yeah.
time to sell?
Yeah, it's that, like, some people that's a way of living right
Mm.
there. And so because
Hey,
I'm looking at it.
when you're living on the edge, but I really feel like in the scheme of things, money is very small. There's karma, there's that energy you put out in the world, and I'm not really trying to, capitalize on a pandemic. That's not really where I'm trying to get my profits from.
Yeah, yeah.
That's not
And
the way to go. How do you feel when you're supposed to be in favor, really representing your people, and then you're profiting from an illness that you knew about in
yeah,
advance?
it's it really just speaks to the character of the person. I mean, it's
Yeah,
and well, it speaks to exactly what you're willing to sacrifice to just like push yourself an inch further, you know?
yeah,
And
an inch with that.
yeah,
And but then you think about like how far are we going to go back?
yeah,
Because the human race is it's a resilient species, and we're not gonna. This will hit us just like Zika virus, just like Ebola did, just like avian flu did. But when you take actions that are negative towards your own species because you're trying to profit during, a devastating occurrence, really, really.
yeah, yeah. And so, one of the things that has always been interesting, kind of like knowing you, and as you like mention all these different like, animal related sort of like viruses and stuff. Like you're a
Hmm.
veterinarian, and so,
Yeah.
um, how did you? What was sort of like the driving force for you to like pursue this line of work?
Oh, for me, I think it was my God-given gift, and that was my destiny. My parents put me on a horse at 11 months old, and
Oh wow.
it was a wrap after that. I didn't want to get off, and then they had to take me to the barn. I went to find where that horse was. His name was Stormy. He was like 30. He was very, very old. But I rode Stormy every week, and then as I got older, my dad was in the military, so when we would move, we were always near a military base, and so they would find the barn that I would ride at, and they would let me go. And that's really where I got my first passion for animals. I mean, horses were my go-to, and then I love dogs, cats, rabbits, birds, and everything else.
Yeah.
But when I really got exposure, my parents really saw that I had an interest in it, and then they just kind of guided me in that direction. And so for me, I was just blessed to know what I wanted to do at an early age, and then I was blessed to have parents who saw that and they nurtured it. And they didn't have anybody in my family who was a veterinarian. They didn't know any veterinarians at the time. I remember my mom telling me about Debbie Turner, who was, I believe, Miss America, and then she was also a veterinarian. But in my immediate vicinity, there were no black doctors that I knew. So I appreciate them for helping me get to where I was. So it was always like, you're gonna be a vet, but what are you gonna do once you're a vet?
Yeah, yeah. And so, what was because, I'm still trying to get into medical school, and so I'm
Hmm.
slowly learning more and more about really the process as I go through it. So,
Yeah,
so what was
yeah.
your sort of, could you talk a little bit about like what the process is to be a veterinarian, actually?
Sure. Yeah, sure. So the process to be a veterinarian is very similar to becoming a medical doctor for humans. You have to do your, standard high school education. Then you'll go to undergrad, and you'll normally get a bachelor's of science. If you have a school that has a veterinary school in it, they'll normally have what's called a pre-veterinary degree, just like you have a pre-med degree, and that degree is tailored to people who are trying to get into veterinary school. But if you have a school that does not have a veterinary school in it, and they don't have a pre-vet, then you can always major in pre-med. You can major in biology or some other science course curriculum. Then once you graduate, normally about your junior year, like your last year, right before your last year, you'll start looking at schools you want to go to. I went to schools when I was in undergrad each summer, and I went to schools, veterinary schools in high school, because I wanted to know which school I was going to dedicate 4 years of my life to. I didn't want to find out when I got to that school that this was the first time I'd ever been there. So I went to visit them whenever they had like open house. So I would call, see, who I could speak with, try to talk to students who were currently attending or who had attended. And then I would find the alumni association in my city that corresponded with the school I wanted to go to. So I went to Tuskegee.
Okay.
So I found the Tuskegee Veterinary Alumni Association, and they would take trips to Tuskegee. And they would also have events where they would teach us about what it was like to go to that school. So that's where I really got the initial start. After undergrad, your third year, your junior year, you apply to that school. You have to take either your SAT, or I'm not sure what the test is now. It's not your MCAT though, but I think it's the SAT what I took.
Okay.
Submit all your scores. They'll have a prerequisite based on the veterinary school you want to attend. I'm not sure how it is in medical school, but different veterinary schools have different prerequisites. Many of them are similar, but you really want to check the school that you want to go to, because one course may say you have to take a chicken course, and then another class may say that's not required. And you don't want to limit yourself because you don't have the one class, to get in. And then also think about, for me, finances. That's one of the biggest things for us now, millennials, as well as the younger generations coming up. How are you going to pay for school? So for veterinary schools, if you're in the state, if you're going in state, then it's much cheaper to go to the veterinary school than if you're going to an out-of-state school, because they're really targeting people who are within their area. You can go to a private veterinary school like I did, which is Tuskegee, where the cost is pretty much going to be one set price because it's a private school. And then there are schools that, if you're in a state where it doesn't have a veterinary school, they'll kind of subsidize and offset the cost depending on which school you go to.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, it's very similar to sort of like getting into medical school and like the medical school process where I think for OHSU in
Mm-hmm.
particular, they were one of the few schools that you had to take biochem and genetics, and so my last when I was at Portland State, I had to make sure I took those courses before I applied
Yes,
because some schools didn't require that, and some schools were like, these classes are preferred, but they're not required, and then there's other schools that
yes.
have those same preferred requirements are actual requirements, and so
Mm-hmm.
it's
And it's important, very, very important, because one of the things I found my sophomore or junior year, I realized one of the classes that was required for me to get into veterinary school was only offered once every 2 years.
Oh, dang.
And so if I didn't take it that year, I was going to have to wait 2 years or not be able to apply. And so I decided that for me, I would just take it in the summer.
Yeah.
And then, be done with it. So I did a small short term of summer school to make sure that I could get into veterinary school. But, you really got to check, because your counselor or whoever your guidance counselor is supposed to be working with you when you're getting to these states where you're trying to apply. But really, it's up to you. And you don't want to get to the end of the road where you're about to apply and then realize you're short a class and you got to continue additional semester or, pay tuition again for one class.
Yeah. And what I learned on my journey is that my counselor, like my advisor, whatever, they never went through this stuff. And so, like,
No.
it's like I always go back to like when I play football. It's like I'm trying to, I'm not going to listen to a coach that never played football. Like, why would I?
Hey.
Like, so I'm always really hesitant.
And they're giving you their own opinion. Like, this is their opinion. My advising counselor, she talked to me like she talked to her kids because they were the same age. And so she would tell me like, no, don't do that. You can't do that. And so I was like, okay. I loved her. She was wonderful. But then I said, I need to find another guidance counselor. So I went and found another counselor who agreed with what I was saying and believed in me. And then, I just kept talking to her when it was things that was relevant to what I needed to. But, like you said, you can't be letting people hold you up on your dream and then, but you're going to blame them when you don't make it? No, you're not.
Yeah, yeah. Because, at the end of the day, like the success, like we always have people that help us, but our success really comes from our drive and what we see opportunities
And it's hard.
Yeah.
I think if I could tell anybody anything about veterinary school, one, it's much harder to get into veterinary school than it is to get into medical school. There aren't as many schools, so just the sheer amount of people trying to get in, the competition is much steeper. Secondly, when it comes to pay, veterinarians don't make as much as medical doctors make. And so when you're trying to decide on choosing a profession, you need to go into it because that's your passion. That's truly what you love to do.
Yeah.
And then within the veterinary field, you have to understand that it's a vast expanse. It's its own world. Veterinary is just one word that describes animal care. So you can be a veterinarian that decides that you want to work with just cows or just bees, just honeybees. And you could say you like to travel the world and you want to stay at different reserves all over in different countries and care for elephants and tigers. Or you might say you'd like to just open a kitten rescue in your local community and just care for kittens that are 8 weeks to 12 weeks old. And you can do all of that with the same degree.
Oh, wow.
You just have to know where to get in, and you just have to find a good mentor, that can help you and have a plan for when you get in what you want to do. And I really encourage people now because, you can rely on corporations. There are a lot of good jobs, even for medical professionals in different hospitals. But I think we should all be your own entrepreneur. I always encourage the hustle and the entrepreneurship. So once you have that degree, you got the knowledge for you. And as African Americans, a lot of times we weren't even allowed to get the degree. They didn't even want us to have the knowledge.
Yeah.
So once you have the knowledge, I say, don't limit yourself. For myself, I call myself, the people's doctor. I'm the people's vet. I'm going to help everybody. Everybody who I can help, I'm going to help. If I can give you knowledge, I'm going to give you knowledge, whether I'm on the clock or off the clock. If I can provide you with, some type of guidance to help you, that's what I'm here for. So I'm not going to just say, oh, it's 6 o'clock and I'm not a doctor anymore. I'm not going to tell you anything, and I'm not going to say also, I can only work here. I'm going to say, what else can I use can I write? Maybe I can make a movie, maybe I can create a different way of learning to help other people who want to be doctors. It's so many things that we can do. You just got to get creative with it,
Oh, yeah, definitely. Definitely. It's going back to what you said in terms of being an entrepreneur. I mean, that was one of the things that's always really attracted me to want a post grad degree, like getting a PhD or a master's or MD or anything like that.
Yeah.
And also, really just like the medical field is that uh, when people talk about like opening up private practices and stuff like that, I mean, that's just starting your own business. I mean, like that's,
Hey,
like
yeah.
you're a doctor, but you're also an entrepreneur. And that's like the best of both worlds because, I
Mhm.
mean, obviously, like having an MD or being in the medical field is like, they always joke around about it being recession proof. You'll always have people always get sick. You'll
Mhm.
always have a job. And being able to
Yeah.
control that destiny, it is kind of just icing on that cake to where you wake
Yeah.
up, you impact others, and you're able to build a legacy for yourself and for people coming under you.
I definitely agree with you. And I also feel like as medical professionals, we are taught this kind of like altruistic behavior. We're going to give everything we can. We'll even give after it depletes ourselves. And so we really have to focus on, getting that rest that we need and then using our resources to help buy ourselves time, like
Yeah,
buy ourselves that freedom that we need so that we can go hard and really give our all and give all of the information, all the knowledge, all the care, all the compassion, all the understanding. And then we can rest and rejuvenate so that we're not tired, we're not burnt out, because we're not robots. We give because we're higher functioning and we're able to do this and this is our calling, but then we also need that time to rest. And for me as a doctor, I've really been pushing in the last few years to show doctors how to rest and really focus on helping them learn that there are different options after you get off work that can be constructive and positive and help you still make money. Because everybody's trying to make money, everybody want to have a job, everybody's trying to be productive, but you still got to enjoy your time. You don't want to get to the end of the road and realize you just worked your whole time.
yeah, yeah. Or just that you don't have anything to show for it after all that work.
Yeah,
You know?
yeah, nothing to show. You got to have something to show. At least your sanity.
Yeah, right. Like, and I think that's one of the big things that has kind of kept me grounded as I like pursue down this path is just, I'm an artist, and so I don't make a lot of money off of my art, but I have, I use it as therapy, and people often like it, and so, if I'm going through a
Oh
stressful
no, they
moment
love your art.
and all that stuff,
They
like,
love it.
it's it really it really keeps me at bay, especially in times like this.
Well, Steve, you really encouraged me when I saw you doing your artwork. And when I heard you were in the medicine, you were one of the first people I really met who was pursuing both the creative and the science portion. And we all had that, both sides of our brain that we use. And you motivated me. I mean, I was already gardening, but then I said, okay, well, I can still practice veterinary medicine and, use my indoor gardening in a way that can help other people. And so definitely that helps keep me sane. Gardening is what leveled me out. So you're not always thinking about, just one thing. Because if not, the cases will always stay on your mind. And you'll always
Yeah.
be trying to figure out what you can do next and how you can improve. That's just the nature of who we are.
Oh
You
yeah.
have to have something else.
Definitely, definitely. And so like you mentioned cases. So we all know, people, families that have like multiple pets. And so like what area
Mhm.
of veterinary medicine are you working in?
Currently, I am working in urgent care and general practice. So there's different sectors of veterinary medicine. General practice is where you're working with most people's standard pets, so they're dogs and cats. So I work with dogs and cats, and then I also work with exotic animals like ferrets, gerbils, hamsters, chameleons, and things like that.
Okay.
But in the past, I've worked in laboratory animal medicine, so more in the research field. But my passion, I mean, I found out when I was in residency how much I truly enjoyed talking to people and hearing stories about their personal pets and getting to interact with them. And so I switched over to general practice, and I've been happy.
Okay, okay. And so like on a regular on the average day, like how many different animals or how many cases are you seeing a day?
Oh, so depends. I'll tell you my highest caseload. The largest number of pets I've seen in one day has been 68.
Oh wow.
I've 68 pets, and but again, it depends on what you're doing. So if you're vaccinating animals and you're helping the community and you're providing what we call preventative or wellness care, so rabies vaccines and heartworm prevention and things like that, I'll see a larger number of animals. But I also work in urgent care. In urgent care, you're getting animals that are very sick, critical cases that are coming in, congestive heart failure, liver failure, hit by car, dog site injuries. And so those cases, you may not see as many animals, but the case is more involved, more intensive, and a lot more taxing on you.
Okay. Okay. And
So
so
rewarding. They tend to be a little bit more rewarding too, though.
yeah, yeah, because it requires you to invest a lot more time and energy into it to get them better and get them over this.
It is, and I would say one of the things I learned from my veterinarian, my childhood vet, his name is Dr. Moskowitz. He told me that in veterinary medicine, 20% is medicine, 80% is people. And that still holds true.
Yeah.
You can only do what the client allows you to do. Many people have financial challenges and struggles, and you still want to practice the gold standard of care, provide the best medicine and get the best outcome for the pet, regardless of the financial situation. And so for me, many times I already know what I want to do. I can do everything, but it's being able to talk to the client and explain why it's important and kind of work with them. And they may have to make some hard choices on, do they pay this bill today, or do they move forward with this today? Or, is it worth it to them to move forward? Is it going to change the outcome? Or sometimes you have to help people and kind of provide a safe space or a comforting space for them to make very difficult decisions. And a lot of times people don't have a lot of time to make that decision.
Yeah.
And so for me as a veterinarian, I'm providing the care to the animal, but I'm also providing the care to the client.
Okay, okay. And so you mentioned sort of like financial that financial hurdle. And so many of us
Mm-hmm.
know how difficult it is to just, navigate healthcare system for people. But like
Yes.
what is sort of that dynamic with when you have a pet, especially like multiple pets,
Oh my.
because you
Oh.
you don't
Oh.
you can't put like your pet on your like, your medical insurance policy or anything like that.
Mm-mm. Mm-mm. Steve. Woo, pets are expensive. Somebody said, what's it like to have a pet? Like, it's like having a kid, but with nobody to help you.
Oh dang.
They're very, very expensive. People spend thousands and thousands of dollars each year. I mean, the animal care industry is worth billions of dollars, because there's no health insurance. There are some healthcare companies that are out there, but again, I tell people when it comes to insurance, insurance is designed for animals that are getting in accidents, like if you get hit by a car or your animal swallows something they're not supposed to swallow regularly. I would recommend you do that.
Okay.
But if your animal, most pets have what they call pre-existing conditions or congenital defects just because they're inbred, and a lot of insurance companies don't cover that, and a lot of people don't know that until after they purchase an insurance plan. So I'd say, just like if you plan to have a baby, before you say, oh, she's such a cute puppy, it's free on Craigslist, start tallying up how much food it's going to be, and then start looking at what kind of breed you want. Some breeds, pit bulls, they always have skin conditions. I've met some that do not, but many of them have dermatitis or food allergies. And you get yourself a nice size pit bull, about 50 pounds. You start paying for those $80 bags of food, and bills start running up. You have to make decisions on, do I pay for the anti-itch medicine, or do I pay for the bag of food? You still love them though,
Yeah.
but those bills start racking up. So
Damn.
I always encourage people, love them. You can love them from a distance, like an auntie. You visit somebody else's kids, you hang out with them, and you send them back. Think about it like that. Because when you see us, we love pets too, but when you see us, very few hospitals have payment care plans, and so you can get what's called care credit. Care credit is a credit card. So if you want to get a credit card to pay for care, you can. But again, you really don't want to have to pay for your care on credit. You want to have that cash available. So having a savings account that you can pull for, that you put maybe $5, $10, $25 a month in for your pet. Hopefully your dog or cat, your iguana doesn't get sick often, but then if they do, you've got it available. And if you don't have the money for it, I say, try to hold off if you can. Watch some more movies and visit somebody else's pet. See if you can borrow somebody else's dog for a weekend.
Oh yeah, I mean, I was just saying this. I'm like joking because it's like every day my girlfriend is like, oh, we're gonna get 3 dogs and a cat, and I'm like, what in the world? Like, that's not gonna happen. And so it's
true though. It's so true. I have a horse. I have a cat. I used to have a Rottweiler. She passed away last year. And then my partner, she has a hound. That's 3 animals. And I'm a veterinarian.
Ooh,
so,
yeah.
when it comes to going to the doctor, I know whether or not you need to go or not. I got medications. I got my own little doctor thing going on. And I'm still out here like, do I want another puppy? Ooh, let me look at Corona just hit. Let me wait.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me wait.
And
Ask yourself, have you paid off your credit card yet before you get another dog?
yeah, oh yeah. I mean, just what were they talking about? How, well, like you said, there's in the age of Corona, people don't have $400 to set aside for medical emergencies, and then you add a pet there, and that $400 is easily what, like 800-900, and so it's I think.
I mean, I have cases time and time again. On average, for dermatitis case, you might be looking at paying $300 right there for easily $300. And if you wanted additional testing, like a culture to figure out what's going on, and you wanted to really dive into it, you might be looking at $500 worth of care. So if it's between a human and you and your dog, and you only have $400, somebody's gonna get cut.
Yeah. I mean,
and a lot of times that is the animal. And so as a veterinarian, you have to be understanding, because right now, many of my clients don't know where their job's going to be in the next month. They don't know where their kids are going to go to school. They don't know how they're going to pay for things. And then to exacerbate it, they have, either standard care veterinary bills, like your cat or dog has a diabetes, or you have to get insulin. Insulin can run you hundreds of dollars if you don't have insurance, if you're not paying for it.
Ooh, man.
And so your dog may not be able to get insulin.
Yeah,
because you have to give them yourself.
I can only imagine. You got a dog and a cat that got diabetes, and whew,
Hey,
man, that's...
they have it. Now animals are living so much longer than they did back in the day because the care is so much better. I have patients who are like 23. I'm 30, so you were born 7 years after me, and I'm caring for them. Cats, I got dogs that are like 19 and 20.
Oh,
so
damn.
if you live to be 20, how many years is that? I stopped counting after that. So I feel like you probably got a couple things going on. You probably got arthritis. You might have glaucoma. You got some cataracts. You might liver disease. You might have kidney disease going on. And that's your standard bill. That's your standard life bill that you got to pay for your medication. And then you get hit with a life event like this. So I really tell people with animals, they're a gift. They're wonderful to have. I love them. I'm so glad that I have this profession. But if you want them, you should get them for life. And you got a budget like you got a kid. Like, 18 years before you out of my house. It's just like that.
Yeah, because it could very well be the case, especially for most breeds.
And my horse is 24.
Jesus.
And some horses live to be 40. Exactly. And I got him when I was 11. So I got him for a little bit of time. I got a budget for him.
Okay. Yeah, because so where do you put your horse at? Like,
You're not gonna be telling my business on your podcast, bro.
well,
But
it's like you can't like some people talk about like cats and dogs and stuff, but like a horse is
oh
a
yeah, yeah,
large animal. Like,
that's true. Okay, well he's not. I can tell you where he's not. He's not in my backyard, and I board him. So my goal with financial freedom is to have my own land. You know, I'm trying to get my 40 acres and a mule that we were promised.
okay, okay,
But until then, I keep with other horses on land with a lady who has a stable,
oh, okay,
and so he gets to stay out and enjoy himself. He's older though, so I just keep him as a. I consider him like my best friend. You know, we hang out together, we go out, walk around, just chill,
okay,
snacks.
okay. So it's okay, yeah. So, oh man.
Yeah.
So I wanted to circle back because you kind of talked about the process to become a veterinarian, and so
Yeah.
I'm familiar with like how like medicine works for like people, but like once you go to vet school, what is it? Is like 2 to 4 years, and then after that you go to like residency, then you do like a fellowship, or like what is sort of like the process once you get
Yeah.
into vet school, or after you get into vet school?
So, once veterinary school is 4 years, and then after you go to veterinary school, you'll get your doctorate of veterinary medicine. At that time, you'll pick a state in which you want to practice, or if you want to go overseas, you can. And then you have to take a state test. You have to take the national test called the NAVLE, like veterinary licensing exam, National American Veterinary Licensing Exam. Then after you pass the NAVLE, that's the national test. That says that you learned everything you need to learn as a veterinarian and you're qualified to practice. Then you choose the state you want to practice in, and you take a state test, which is specific to whichever state you want to work in, and you can be licensed in multiple states. That's normal for many doctors to do, and I encourage doctors to do it. I'm licensed in 2 states,
Okay.
and it allows you to move, between the lines. You just open yourself up to where you can go, and also you can work overseas. You can go work in another country. Many countries will accept a veterinary degree, and you can practice there as well. So once you get your 4-year degree, you can technically start practicing. Many people don't feel comfortable or they want to pursue additional specialties. So you'll do what's called an internship, which is normally like a 1-year internship or one year fellowship. And then you'll go into a specialty program, which will be between 2 to 4 years. And in the specialty program, you can work at cardiology, ophthalmology, parasitology, the same options as human medicine, plus you have wildlife conservation, public health medicine, or I chose laboratory animal medicine because I was interested in research and, kind of figuring out how we can help with diseases and zoonotic diseases as well.
Okay.
But you can choose what you want. But if you decide, for example, that you don't want to do a residency, you can still practice. Again, as long as you have good mentorship. You just have to be passionately, and then you get your licensing, and then you have to have good mentorship. Because even after you finish residency, that's school. Then it's real life. And real life is not like the book. I'll never forget. I was doing surgery. I was looking for a specific vein. Can't remember which one it was. And I was looking at, I looked at the book and I was like, it's supposed to be here. And I remember I called my teacher over. I was like, the vein's not here. Like, it's not here. And he was like, what are you going to do about it? And I was like, what do you mean? He was like, well, I mean, I guess he didn't follow the book. And I was like, ah. You have that moment where you're like, we're really doing it now. Like, you're the doctor. Okay. Okay. That's where the hard part comes in. When the book doesn't match the real case, and that's when that experience comes in. So
Yeah.
I tell people, the schooling is only a small portion, and then you get out and you get to practice. They don't call it practicing for nothing. It's practice over and over again. You get better at it as you practice more.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's I think that what you're saying is really sort of the blessing and the curse, quite often you
Hmm.
hear about, when people get degrees and then they expect something to just kind of just happen for them without them actually like
Yeah.
going out and exploring. Like in this day and age, just because you have a PhD or a master's does not mean you're going to just get a job. Like you have
No,
to
no.
you have to go out into the world and you have to kind of put your best foot forward and you have to explore and you have to make mistakes and you
Hmm.
have to learn from those and grow. And the most polarizing case, obviously, if you're in the middle of that practice and there's you are really in control of somebody's life in certain situations.
Hmm.
The
Hmm.
root of the experience is still the same though.
Yeah, it's still the same. And I do tell people because we're all trying to find our way in the world and kind of figure out what we're here for. And it's it's more than just doing your 9 to 5 shift, Even if you choose medicine, you chose it for more than just your standard hours. So I tell people find your niche. Like even after you found medicine, what's your niche in medicine? What is it that makes you you? What is it unique about yourself? And then when you go out into the world when you're trying to find a job, it's not so awkward because you know what's special about you. You know what is cool about you because medicine is just a small portion. That's the knowledge that you have. But when you go out there looking for jobs, when you go out there interviewing, really interviewing, people want to see that you're a person, that you're cool, that you have um, interpersonal skills, that you are compassionate and understanding. They're not looking for a a-hole who's going to tell them everything, because when you're interacting with the people, whether it's the dog and you have to interact with the owner or just you're communicating directly with the patient and you're working in human medicine, they don't care how much you know. They care whether or not they trust you, if they like you. They want to feel like you're knowledgeable, but really it's that human to human interaction. And if you know who you are, if you know yourself, then it makes it so much easier when you're going into those situations.
Oh yeah, definitely, because it it's just like everything else. If you just want to just you know jock on the fact that you have knowledge, you might as well just write a book. you know
Hey, for real, just write your book and go on.
yeah, yeah.
Go on, tell everybody what you know. But if you're really trying to practice, you need to, it helps to be a people person. It helps to want to listen. And everybody has something to teach you. Just because you're the doctor, that just means you know this set of information. But man, I have some clients, oh, they haven't been, past middle school education. And I learned so much from them because they have experience and um, they're very creative and they watch very closely. And so if you can just look around you and pay attention and then try to learn and let your ego go, you'd be all right.
Oh yeah, yeah.
But I would tell people for students that are going into those interviews again, I really say have a story to tell that is unique for yourself and something to, you know, come alive. Even when you're writing your letter, because when I was writing my letter, my mom always told me, and when I say your letter, I mean your letter to medical school or your what do they call it? Your
Like a
request, I guess.
like a personal statement.
Yeah. Yeah, your personal statement. I remember my personal statement was on cloud paper, not professional. Cloud paper, I was like, oh, we're going to make it dreamy. I want them to know. I wanted them to know, right? I think it had to be a handwritten guide to help me. I don't think it's handwritten anymore. I wrote that thing out like 5 times, and my handwriting was not the best. Um, but my mom made me read it in the most monotone voice because she said when people are reading your paper, they're probably going to read like the first 2 to 3 sentences maybe. And then she said they're going to read it very monotone. So I tried to write so that the person who was reading it could kind of feel, what I was coming from. And I was so, I really just tried to be authentic.
Yeah.
And I tried to be honest with them. When I went into medical school, vet school, my GPA was not the highest. It was not the highest. And I knew that. And so I didn't lie about it. I was like, so I had some challenges, but I came back and I showed that I was resilient and that I could bounce back. And I think that nobody's looking for you to be perfect. They're just looking for good doctors. And I think most people can be an excellent doctor if they just, be honest with themselves and really put in the work for it.
Yeah, and that's one thing that like I've in my journey I've one had to come to terms with. I mean, obviously, I play football, so I have football grades, and then I
Yeah.
had the opportunity to go back to school and bump up my GPA and stuff. But really, everybody that I like, every black physician that I've talked to, they always just say, just don't give up. Like
Hey,
it might.
and that's what it is. It's just not giving up. Because they're going to tell you no. Everybody told me no. When I wanted to be a vet, everyone told me, oh, you're not going to be a vet. Oh, my cousin wanted to be, my brother wanted to be, I want to be. And that didn't happen. Oh, I know you think you're going to get in. This was while I was like, actively applying.
Yeah.
Oh, don't, they're already giving me the speech. Don't feel bad, if you don't get in. And I was blessed to get in on my first try, but I also strategically played the game where I went to a school that had a veterinary program. I did the track and so forth. I set up the dominoes so that when I hit it, everything fell forward appropriately. But not everybody's life is set up like that, and I understand that. So you have to understand that somebody's going to tell you no. Actually, you should expect to know at least once, twice, 3 times. But if you're trying to get somewhere, okay, no. Okay, well, what do you feel? The question isn't no. I tell people when somebody tell you no, you just go ahead and rephrase it as not at this time. Okay, well, next time, we just need to go back and, what did I mess up on? Or where do you feel like I can make improvements? Because every day you have the chance to evolve and get better. And if you got denied one day, who knows who read your application? Who knows who was in charge of looking over admissions and who applied with you, But you're going to not apply next year?
Yeah.
No, you take the test again and go up in there again. They're going to see you enough times. And then sometimes you may have to detour, and go to a different school, or you may have to take a different route and maybe do another job and come back to it. But definitely don't give up, because as Black people, we never gave up. Historically, we're not the kind of people that give up. It's just not what we do. We don't do that.
Yeah.
We don't give up. You got to keep going. We just got to keep. What do you mean? Somebody told you no? How many times have we been told no in history? You're not going to be what? Okay. Thank you. I used to just tell people, thank you. I appreciate your, I would, as my mom would have to acknowledge it, and then I would negate it. I would say, oh, I appreciate you for sharing your thoughts. But, for me, I'm going to make it. But I appreciate it.
Yeah. You don't want to go off on nobody, but it's like, I just take it with a grain of salt, because ultimately
you can't get mad at somebody for their experiences. Because they might not believe that. Like, you can't get mad that someone else may not believe in your dream because they can't believe in it. They may not even believe in their own dream. How are they going to believe in your dream? That's why it's yours. You nurture it. You guide it. You accept responsibility if it goes well and if it doesn't. And then I tell you, you have a hell of a story to tell when you make it, right?
Yep, right. It's at least in this day and age, you could record. You could document all the times where you've been rejected, and then hopefully 10 years down the road, you just have a little highlight reel when you graduate. You'd be like, hey, everybody, just watch this.
I keep my list. I keep my list of times someone told Jazzy no all the time when they said, nope, not going to happen, nope. And then I just, you see people again. I've seen so many people again, and karma came back around, and I was like, hey, nice to see you.
Oh, yeah, definitely. And I think that's
oh, you think I'm going to make it?
I think that's one of the, I mean, it can be a driving force, a motivator, when amongst all the other motivators, but I feel like it's a really good feeling, because that culminates the experience of actually really seeing your dream come true. It's like the final scene at the end of a movie where you see the character going through a whole bunch of things, and then at the end you just see them on top.
You do, and you think about it. My mentor told me, think about it going up a mountain. Some people just go straight up. But many times you go around it. You kind of go around, it looks like you're not making that much progress, but then you look and you're like, okay, we're slowly getting up there. And I think the joy is in the journey of going around the mountain and telling people what you saw, and you just shoot straight up to fame and shoot straight up to success. I mean, that is wonderful, but where's the story? The story, if the movie ends in 5 minutes,
Yeah.
unless it's a short film. Unless it's a short
Even then, like you got a 10-minute film, but you'll at least know by what, like, minute 8.
You should know what's happening.
Yeah.
We should be kind of getting close to where we're going. So that's why I'm telling people, like, and we started the game, and you start the game hard. Like, people go in hard. Medical school, all of the degrees, we really go hard. Law, we go in hard. But you got to keep that same momentum when you start going around the mountain. That's when it gets hard, because that same energy you had when you start, they say keep that same energy. And when the blizzard is coming, when the dragon's blowing on you, when you broke your leg, you got to keep that same energy, because as you keep going, you'll find that, yes, there is a storm, but the sun will turn around. Yes, there was rain, and now we will have flowers. And yes, there is a struggle, but in that struggle, you will find your resilience, and you'll find confidence, and you'll find your successes within your failures. And as a doctor, or just as a person in general, you'll just find growth overall, which is what, medical doctor is amazing to have. But a medical doctor who is also compassionate, understanding, and has like complete growth, wow.
Yeah. That's and they're Black. It's like, what? Man, it's going crazy.
Hey, I'll be, I'm looking forward to when you walk across that stage. They'll be clear. Coronavirus outbreak will be clear once you go.
Yeah, by the time at the rate that this is going, we're going to be past like what 2 or 3 more pandemics before I get across that stage, because this is taking forever. I came out here. Yeah, I moved to Portland in 2015. Went through a post-bac from 2015 to 2017. Took the MCAT, applied in 2017. Didn't find out that I didn't get into medical school till summer 2018. Then I took like kind of like took a step back, and then I applied last year. Was it like August? I applied July 2019, and so now I'm like in the swing of things again. So hopefully it doesn't take me. Hopefully I know before June 2020 if I get it. But like I've been trying to get into medical school in Portland longer than I was at Portland State. And so it's it's like,
hey, you just getting that challenge. I just always ask, how bad do you want it?
Oh yeah.
And how bad do you want it? And once you get it, though, because this seems like forever, like the process to apply, the actual process of going to school. But then, was that only 4-5 years? Average person would be like, 80 something? So, in the scheme of things, it's real small. It's just the stress of waiting and the application process and doing it again. And for me, I just, I turned it over. Or after I did my part, I checked up, though. You got to follow up. For any type of application and anything. You got to follow up. But then after that, I was like, okay, are you going to get in? If you're not, what are you going to do if you don't get in? Okay, what are we going to work on next year to try again? And then also try to make some contacts at the hospital or the university where you're trying to get in is always good as well. And so what they're looking for in the questions. And then when you do the interview, though, it's always great because you get to do the questions.
Oh yeah.
Most people interview is the hardest part. So I say the questions. When I went to my veterinary interview, I say my questions.
Yeah, and it was
so that I can have other students.
It was really weird because they're doing multiple mini interviews now, and so
what?
It's
What's a mini interview?
so multiple. Oh yeah, so the new thing, the buzzword for applications, medical applications, is multiple mini interviews. And so what they do is they pretty much have this block of what, like 90 minutes to 2 hours, and you have like 10 minutes per station, and you have like 10 stations, and
What?
they stand you in front of a door, and then they give you kind of a prompt, and then after they give you that prompt, they let you read it for a couple of minutes, and then they tell you to put the prompt down, and then you walk into a room, and you're either going to have
Hmm.
like a scenario, you're going to have like an actor, some like
What?
prompter, some like activity, some group project, or something like that, and you don't know what's going to happen until you walk through that door. And so I've had ones where, like, there's an actor that's irate, and you have to be the doctor and figure stuff out and all that. So because I had two interviews, and one was a multiple, well, both of them had multiple mini interviews, but the other one also had a one-on-one. And so I really liked having the one-on-one with the multiple minis, but it seems like everybody's
Hmm.
doing like the multiple minis as like the baseline now. And so it's
Yeah, you need the one-on-one. I had a one-on-one. It was two people
oh dang.
interviewing me when I went, and I think my interview was probably about 30 minutes or so, um, in that particular section. And I remember the first thing they asked me was like, how are you feeling? Are you glad to be here? And no prompts. I remember that day. I was just like, I said, I've been waiting for this day for a long, long time. Like, that was my intro statement. And we didn't have like I don't know what they ask these days. We had scenario questions. We had different types of scenario questions. Ours was one of the classic questions, like you're driving and there's a child in the street, and the child is hitting a dog, and there's a tree on the side of the road, and you have to hit one. Do you hit the dog? Do you hit the child? Or do you hit the tree? And I remember, people would be like, hit the kid. And some people were like, hit the tree. And I remember the answer was always, you hit the dog because human life is supposed to be more valuable. But I always would say, I think my answer was, well, human life is valuable and children should not abuse animals. And, I would unfortunately have to hit the dog, but then I would immediately go and provide emergency care, like after I did.
Yeah, so you would make sure to answer the question the right way, but you're not going to like give
Yeah.
up your morals or your values just because of a particular
Yeah.
answer.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I had a question like, if you're in surgery and you're doing surgery with a person and they don't want to do the surgery, what do you do? Do you do surgery for them, or, do you take over? And I remember my answer was, well, I try to see if it's a life-threatening situation and if the animal needs to be stabilized. But I would try to talk to the person and, try to encourage them to complete the surgery if they're able to, because in the long run, many times you're going to be the one who's going to have to save yourself. And so you got to get that confidence that someone's not going to always be able to take over for you.
Oh yeah.
Like, so you get different types of questions like that. But it also depends on who's interviewing you. In 10 minutes, I would really try to say, just, be authentic and make an impact. Don't be fake, though. Because, you can tell somebody is fake.
Man,
And try to understand. Do you know what they're going to ask beforehand? Do they tell you?
nope, no. Yeah, you never know. Yeah, you never know. And so
I read up to date news. Well, we kind of know for your next couple interviews, you probably know some questions they're going to come up with currently based on the climate. But when I was in, I think there was some stuff out on like whales. So I was trying to like read up on veterinary news and like medical news, like stay informed. So when they ask about it, you kind of know what the newest laws are, just in case somebody tries to throw in one of those, what do you call them? really, really interesting questions.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, they don't really, they try to keep everything so closed off. It's like, talking about interview questions is like talking about like trade secrets to to medical schools. And so, they make you sign
Uh,
like NDAs and all this stuff. So it's just a whole, it's just
and that
crazy.
is so crazy. But then it's almost like, okay, well, then we need to work on having well-rounded interviews. Then you just need to be good at interviewing. When I was in high school, I did extemporaneous speaking, where you literally speak on a topic that you just learned about 15 minutes ago,
Yeah.
and then you have 15 minutes to get your information and things together. When I was back in school, we had magazines and all the notebooks. We didn't have the internet. But now you have the internet. So I think in that case, you need to practice public speaking so you're not nervous when people throw you a question. Then you can just focus on the question and not the fact that you're having to publicly speak. And some people are, excuse my French, a-holes. Like, they're real assholes in interviews. Some people get a power kick from interviewing because they feel like they're interviewing you and you trying to be like them.
Yeah.
But you really got to keep your ego out of it and just be like, so it's nice to meet you, and I'm going to focus on the question. Try not to get offended if someone doesn't agree with what you're saying, because they may or may not be the deciding factor. But then again, who cares? If you don't like me, who cares? You ain't going to choose me anyway, so why do I care?
Yeah. Yeah.
You
And
know?
that's just kind of how
Keep your dignity. Leave with your dignity at the end of the damn interview. At least you can leave with your dignity. And then my next question would be, can we get a meal? I need to eat.
Yeah. Oh man. Oh yeah, definitely. And so with that, I think it's a perfect time to wrap up with our dignity intact, because you know, but one of the things I always like to ask is, just with everything that's been going on, before we wrap up, what is, like what's going on with you? Like, are there any things new on the horizon? Obviously, we're still in this quarantine situation, and so things are getting canceled, and things are like, plans are getting shifted. Oh, dude, freaking! They postponed the Summer Olympics. It's going to happen in 2021 now.
That.
It's like
I saw that.
It's like, man.
They said no to Japan, not today.
Yeah,
yeah. They said not today.
And so hopefully you didn't have any. Hopefully you didn't have any Olympic plans.
No, so for me, the introvert in me says, now is my time, because I've been inside. Anyway, I'm an indoor gardener, and I'm very much into nature, like in the forest by myself nature with my partner.
Yeah.
So we've just been focusing on our company. It's called The Forestry. You can find it on www.foreststreet.com.
Okay.
And we just teach people how to live with plants, like literally how to garden, teaching you how to take a break. We teach people about cannabis and its medicinal benefits. And we really teach people how to do, like, simple living, how to cook. A lot of people didn't even know how to cook during this outbreak.
Yeah.
Got to learn how to cook some cornbread. People need to learn how to make cornbread during this time. I think it's a very staple item that people haven't learned about. But yeah, I just been relaxing and really focusing on what matters: family, my health, and working relief and providing care for animals when I can, and just trying to move past this. But I've really enjoyed our interview today.
Oh yeah, definitely. I enjoyed it as well. I know everybody that I'm hitting up, they're either asking me like, I can't do in-person interviews, and I'm like, I'm not trying to do an in-person interview either. And then the other one is,
I'm not trying to see you. I'm not trying to see the podcast.
And then the other thing is, some people just have never done like podcast interviews, so they're like, oh, what do I do? Like, what do I expect? I've never done this before. So I'm like, just chill. Just a conversation,
Let
you
them
know?
hear. Let them hear our conversation. Tell them we were just
Oh
chilling.
yeah, and that's always, because for me, I'm not a journalist. I just like making stuff, and I like talking to people, and so that I know how to do it, and so I just go ahead and just do things like this, and so and so it's like
Hey, I'm proud. I'm proud of you, Steve. I think it went good. I wasn't sure what we were going to talk about today, but I was like, I'm coming to speak, and I
yes,
will say things.
yes, just come ready for a conversation, but before we get off, I wanted to. So I'm working on another project. It's on.
Mhm.
I'm talking to pretty much black black physicians and like black people in healthcare, and via albeit that it's the coronavirus outbreak and everything, focusing on like health education, and so
Yeah.
I want to follow up with you once I get that starting to go again. I wanted to follow up with
Mhm.
you to because I'm making a like another like I'm making an augmented reality book based on focusing on like health education in the black community and sort of like
Oh, love
the
it.
like things to know, but also like things you should just like pay attention to as
Yeah.
exist being black with all these health disparities.
I would love that. Thank you for considering me. I would love to be a part of that.
Yeah, because I know especially when it comes to health education and that intersection with pets and animals, and because we
Mhm.
all I feel like with the black community in general, like there's always it's like one in every like three or four like black people has a pet, so it's like
Mhm.
but
Uh huh.
but it's not really talked about, or it's never really
No.
explored
Uh, they need to dive in.
yeah, and so I definitely want to follow up with you on that in the future once things start to
Okay.
die down and stuff like that, because I always have like 20 different projects going.
You do, which I love. That's how you stay active.
Yeah.
That's how you stay active.
Oh yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Do you do graphic design work?
Yeah, I do.
Because
So
I know you do your imaging. I wanted to. We have a design logo right now for Forest Street, but I know in the future, long term, um, actually wanted to do an app.
okay.
So like a game app, and we can't draw. So that's why I was texting you.
Yeah. I mean, I would say that uh the game part is probably more of would be more of the hurdle than the drawing. But
Oh,
but yeah. I think me and my girlfriend, um we're like learning how to like make games right now with this thing called Unity engine. And
yeah,
so
yeah,
yeah, I mean, if you have the interest in like making games and stuff, I
yeah,
could send you over some of the stuff that like we're using to start off with it, because we're like,
yeah. That would
bare
be
basics.
great. Because ours is going to be a gardening. We're all into gardening, and it really is for rest. Like we're teaching people how to rest and garden. So there's
Okay.
not too many gardening games out there.
Oh yeah, no.
Black gardeners, we're not black gardeners.
Yeah, definitely. Like it's a, but yeah, because I think the software that we're using is free. I mean, it's free for everybody, and I think they only make you pay once you make like $100,000 or something like that off the game, and so
Oh,
and so it's and so yeah. So it's, I mean, up until that, I mean, it's free, and so I'll definitely send you over. I'll send you over like what we're using, and then probably see if you could get some of those like LinkedIn learning courses or anything like that. That
yeah, I got those. Yeah,
and
I
so
got that one.
oh yeah,
Okay,
yeah. So yeah. I'll shoot you over that stuff. Yeah, when we get off.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
Oh yeah, definitely. And
Okay.
so stay safe.
Send me the link when you post this.
Oh yeah, definitely will. I'm now that I have all the time, I'm just like trying to crank out as many episodes as possible. Then,
You sound like me. I told my dad I'm retired. I was like, I'm retired right now.
it's like I got some money saved up and stuff like that, so I'm cool right now, and so really trying to crank out all this stuff, and so I'll definitely let you know when we post this, because it I
Okay.
think people enjoy it. I think people enjoy what's going on right now, in the heat of.
I think they would make them laugh. I had a fun time doing it. I think they would enjoy listening.
Oh yeah, definitely, definitely. Again, I want to give another shout out to the Soul District Business Association and Flossom Media for helping me put this on. I'm your host, Stephen Christian. I mixed and mastered this podcast. I also did all the interviews. And if you see any of the stuff on YouTube, I put all that stuff together as well. With all the social distancing things right now, I'm producing this right out of my home studio. So if you have a chance, make sure to follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Medium at PDX Black Rose, which is PDX BLACKROSE. And if you're on Patreon, hit us up on there. We would love your support. If you don't do anything else, definitely rate and review us on your favorite podcast platform. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher. And on top of that, be sure to share this with your friends. The purpose of this podcast is to highlight the movers and shakers in Portland that are doing things in the Black community. And by supporting this podcast, you're supporting the community as a whole. So with that being said, thank you for your time, and I'll catch you on the flip side. The intro song is brought to you by Andy Stokes, and the outro song is brought to you by Spring Gang from Epidemic Sound.